How are you?
Dr. Milner, it is a pleasure. Thank you so much.
It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for the invite.
It's totally our honor to have you with us. And first of all, a very warm welcome to the Miss Immigrant Podcast called Wise Immigrants, where we talk with the community leaders, candidates, to get to know them, to see who they are, where they're coming from, what shaped them, and what make them to take this decision to run for office in your situation, to be a judge at the civil court. So please, Dr. Milner, share with us your story.
Okay, my name is Julie Milner, and I'm running for Queens Civil Court Judge. And the reason I decided to run is because year after year I would go to vote, and it would say, pick any two of the following candidates for judge. But there'd only be two candidates. Or pick any three candidates, and there's only three. And that didn't sit right with me because that's not democracy. It seemed to me that these choices were being made for us. And I looked into it, and it seemed like there's some kind of backdoor dirty deal processing going on in
Mm,
order for people to get on the bench. And that really concerned me, not only as an attorney, but as a mom,
mm,
that me and my family, we're not going to get justice if we go against someone who's in the inner circle of these people. So it's very important for all the people to have fair and independent representation that's not connected to the power structure. So I decided to throw my hat into the ring in 2024. Um, it's been a very strange process because once you run as an insurgent, they really treat you as an enemy. And I'm a lifelong Democrat, and I was called right wing Republican, MAGA, um, extremists, conspiracy theory. I mean, they were throwing everything, racist, homophobe. They were throwing everything my way, and they were even getting tweets I had written before and twisted them up to make them look I was responding to something I didn't respond to and publishing in their newspapers. And I didn't know how deep and how dirty the whole party system was until I ran for judge. I had an inkling when I saw, okay, pick any two candidates, there's only two. But when I threw my hat into the ring, I got to see how dirty the process was. And I'm a fighter, I'm a civil rights and constitutional lawyer, an education professor, and a mom of five children. I'm a fighter. So I went in there and I fought. I ran 2024, 2025. This is my last time because I'm over 60 years old, and I'm going to pass the baton on to
mhm.
somebody younger. If I can find someone brave to do it, I'll help them behind the scenes.
Many immigrants and first-time voters do not fully understand the judicial elections. Very often, it's a surprise that, oh, the judges, you need to vote for them. So, in simple words, what does Queen Civil Court do, and why should everyone care to vote for a judge? Mhm.
Queen Civil Court hears disputes which are $50,000 down to $5,000. So $5,000 and under are small claims court. From 5,000 to 50,000 are civil court. Over 50,000 would be New York Supreme Court. So we would hear suits that involve contract disputes. There's a lot of credit card disputes, a lot of debt disputes. We could hear landlord and tenant disputes if it doesn't have any monetary value. So they're called plenary actions to get the tenant out if they've overstayed, but they can't sue for money in civil court. So those are the types of cases that are heard there.
When someone hears the word court, very often they feel fear, confusion. What would you say to the people who have those feelings and they feel intimidated by the court system?
Yes, it's very intimidating because there's an imbalance of power. There's an imbalance between the litigants and their lawyers, the litigants and the judge, even the lawyers and the judge. So I want to have equitable power structure so that everyone feels comfortable in the courtroom. I have a great deal of empathy, and I think empathy can make people feel welcome and make people feel heard. And one of my biggest issues for reforming the court would be to get equitable translation services. So we have really good translators, but when somebody comes and they need a translation service, they come in the morning and their case is called at around 9 a.m. But then the translator doesn't come down often until the afternoon. So the person's there from 9, 10, 11, 12, all the way up. And they're having to pay their lawyer for sitting there waiting. And also they're wasting their time. And I've seen, especially with my Chinese clients, in China, there are so many different dialects, and each one sounds like its own language. So if you speak Mandarin, you're not going to understand a lot of the Cantonese. And then if somebody speaks Fuzhou, you might not have a translator that understands that dialect. So I had a situation where one of my Fuzhou clients had to have a Mandarin translator, and they didn't understand what was going on. And I don't speak Fuzhou, but I could tell by the face, and I had to keep stopping the proceedings. And the judge didn't want to hear it because they had a translator. They want to go like this. And I would never do that. I would take all day if I have to make sure that the litigants understand. And I would want to ask some check-in questions. I would look at the faces and see, are they confused? Does this sound like what they're saying? Let me check in with them and make sure that they understand, because that's due process. That's guaranteed to every single person who's on American soil, regardless of immigration status. Due process applies to everyone, and it must be applied in a court proceeding.
And now with the AI, maybe there will be something that can be done maybe faster and accommodate all the immigrants and the languages that they speak. Is the court thinking about implementing any AI solutions?
I think AI will be the solution sometime in the future. Right now, AI is emerging and there's a lot of ethical issues around it. When AI first came out, there was a lawyer, a couple of lawyers that were caught using AI, which was producing fake cases in their briefs. And they got into hot water, as they should have, because they didn't do the research. They didn't fact check the AI. AI can do wonderful things. I've run like 800-page documents in it and ask it to give me a summary. I wouldn't trust it to do legal analysis. I don't think I could trust it to do translation live right now. It's doing pretty good. I'm translating English to Spanish, and then I read over because I understand Spanish pretty well. I not to create it, but recognize whether it's right or not. So it's doing a good job, English to Spanish. I wouldn't trust it in a live proceeding yet until it develops more and we have some kind of controls and some ethical rules around it.
But maybe like for a basic communication even, because they are, I assume that they are immigrants walking into the court, even they don't know how to ask for direction, where to go for maybe the information booth or something like this. And this can be helpful for them.
Well, when you walk into Queen's Civil Court, there are pro bono lawyers in the lobby. They have little tables. So they're pretty good about getting people where they need to go. We do need more languages printed out. because Queens is the most diverse borough, probably the most diverse place in the world. And we have a lot of different languages, and a lot of them have not been fairly represented. So we need to be cognizant that every single person coming into court is made to feel welcome. That's their place to get justice, whether they're the person sued or person being sued. They should be heard, and they should feel welcome, and they should feel comfortable, and they should have the services needed to access the justice.
On our podcast, we talk a lot about immigrant identity and belonging. Do you have any family story, cultural experiences, or life experiences that help you understand what it is to feel like to be an outsider or misunderstood or trying to belong, and how this shaped you and your life decisions?
Well, absolutely. My partner is from China.
Mm.
And when he came to America in the year 2000, he didn't speak a word of English. And he's a Kung Fu grandmaster. He came here on an alien of extraordinary ability visa. Very talented in Kung Fu, very renowned in Kung Fu. So he had opened up a Kung Fu school in my neighborhood, and I was a single mom at the time, and I was looking for a Kung Fu place for my children. And I didn't want to go all the way to Flushing to the Shaolin Temple.
Mhm.
And one day I was walking home from the train, and boom, there's a Kung Fu school with little flags up. And I went in to take my children, and he told me, Hola, ¿cómo está? And he thought that was English because we lived in Corona and we had a lot of Spanish around, and he had just picked that up, and he was so proud because he thought he was speaking English, but he was speaking the language of our neighborhood, which is lovely. And I guess Cupid shot a little arrow in our hearts. And after a year of my kids taking Kung Fu, we started dating, and we'd have a dictionary, an English Chinese dictionary, and just point to things.
Mhm.
And, I helped him to learn English, and we all study Kung Fu together. And it's been wonderful. So, yes, I know the problems with the immigration system. I know because he came with the green card, but it took a long, long time for him to become a citizen, or for that to come through, and then for him to become a citizen. And my proudest moment was watching him vote
Mhm.
um, right before COVID hit, and that was really good for us. So he's been told, go back to China by people, nasty people. So I know what it's like to, try to belong and
Mhm.
try to just navigate everyday life. And
Mhm.
then there are racists, there are xenophobes, and it really upsets me that in this day and age, some of the people are not welcoming to people that they feel are outsiders.
And what does belonging mean to you personally?
Belonging to me is love. We're all human beings, and we have to love one another. We have to have the connections. We have to help each other when we can. Um, I see too much divisiveness. I see too much hate. Politics, especially, we're all divided. And we just really have to get together and live together as human beings. And that to me is love, having a lot of love in your heart.
And what about your family history? Is there any immigrant history there?
Well, there's an immigrant history in all Americans, right? Because we're a nation of immigrants. My family happened to come before there was an America
Mhm.
because they were the original Scotch Irish that settled in upstate South Carolina. And I had lived in South Carolina generations, and I came to New York 30 years ago. You might still hear an accent, it comes out from time to time. And my family had survived by marrying indigenous women. So the indigenous women could teach them the farming, um, the toxic plants, the edible plants, the herbs. So back then, it was so essential to have indigenous wives that they made laws which are referred to as the Pocahontas laws. And what the laws did was bestow whiteness on indigenous women that married white men so that the children would be legally white. And this was good for them at the time when we became a nation and they got the benefits of being white and the privileges of being white, but it effectively wiped out family history. And it was a cultural genocide because the indigenous part was just erased. It was whitewashed. And I always knew I had indigenous ancestry because the knowledge was passed down from mother to granddaughter to great granddaughter. And I had the knowledge of going into the woods and finding herbs for different remedies. And, but I didn't know where it came from. How far back did it go? So it wasn't until I did the 23andMe that I could see the percentage and try to go back, and then the records that were being digitalized were really helpful, and I was able to trace the roots on both sides of my family. So um, we're all a nation of immigrants, but right now there's an anti-immigrant policy going on, and it's causing hate, it's causing division. But we have to remember we all came from somewhere else. We aren't the original people here. We all came from somebody else, somewhere else. And we have to live together. We have to help each other. We have to respect each other.
It's thank you for sharing that. I love that story. Hearing because we are living such a fast lives, and very often what's new, what's new, what's new, what's on top, but we don't take time to look back. What's our history? Where are we coming from? What actually happened? How we evolved? And to have you sharing the stories and remembering and looking back into your family history and wondering, oh, why do we why my mom or my grandma did things like this, where it came from. What about your kids? Are you passing those little pieces of your heritage to them? And if yes,
Yes.
can you share an example of something that you pass into them?
Yes, I do pass on to my kids the family history. Some of them aren't too interested. They're kind of bored with it right now, but I have it all written down because I can be long-winded. So, kids just want fast things. They want it in a tweet. If it's bigger than a tweet, yeah, don't bother with me with that, Mom. And especially my two youngest children who are half Chinese, they have struggled with their identity
Mm,
because they're both actresses.
mm,
So they're too Asian for a white part, but they're too white for an Asian part, and there's no part for someone in between. And there was a gathering in Central Park not too long ago. They called it the Wasian Meetup. And it sounded cool. So my kids were kind of doing, okay, I'm Wasian now. So they thought it was cool to finally have an identity of what they were. And they're coming into their own. The youngest just turned 21 and the other one's 25, and they're like navigating the all the isms of the world. They're LGBTQ as well. I'm a proud rainbow mom, and identity is a really big piece of our family and my kids growing up. Who am I? Where do I fit in the world? And the answer has always been love, 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 love. We love you. You love yourself. And if you have hate from the outside, the love we give you, the love you have in your heart is going to overcome the hate.
as a mom, you have to be so strong to show them the way. And one thing is to love them, but as well to teach them so they can love themselves. That's a lot. Going back a little bit to your academic work and the institution, how they can help actually shape the younger generation are looking for this identity, looking to belong. They don't feel like there is a place for them. What do you hear from them? What is your answer to them on that?
Well, I was a high school teacher and I taught in Title I schools for and I taught as a special ed teacher. So my children that I taught, they had profound challenges. The schools weren't equipped to meet their mandated IEP needs. They weren't given the right accommodations or the modifications to help them succeed in school. So we were setting them up for failure. And I had to work 3 times as hard to meet them before school, meet them after school, tutor them, and find what makes them tick, what makes them learn. The fundamental skill is reading. And if you can't read, you can't do anything else. Even if you can do math, if you can't read the math problem, you're not going to be able to do well on the test. So I had to bring high school students up to a reading level where they could do the regents. And when you have high school students that can't read a job application, then we know that the school has failed them. And you only have 2, 3 years to get them up to speed. And a teacher just has the kids 1 year. But my kids kept coming to me and coming to me. I would bake cookies and say, come early in the morning. I'll give you cookies. I'll give you your bacon, egg, and cheese or Beck as we called it. And afternoon, we had the pizza after school. Come and eat pizza. And some kids would come and grab a slice and they'd be out. But eventually they would come, they'd see their classmates sitting there working really hard. And then they'll be like, okay, I might as well come in and do my homework so my teacher doesn't yell at me the next day. So I took all kids, not just the kids I was teaching, but any kid that wanted to come in, gave them the fundamental reading schools, sat down, worked one-on-one with them, and helped get them up to speed. So I was able to get the Regents passing scores up in the schools where I was working, but it wasn't enough. It wasn't enough. And so much more critical work needs to be done. And I found that the school system, it has a lot of institutional racism built in that we need to address. We need to just, I don't want to say blow it up. It sounds terroristic, but we have to do something drastic to go in, change the way the system is set up so that all children are given the tools they need to succeed. So that's why I went on and got my doctorate in education. And I was teaching teachers to go in and do the critical education work we did need, the equity work that we need to make education work for everyone. And now I'm teaching in the doctorate program and I'm helping doctoral students with their dissertations. And we're doing critical work to see what's wrong with the education system and how we can fix it from the top down and the bottom up so that children get the best education we can possibly give them. And it's very hard because the systems are designed for failure. And the mindset is I'm going to follow the system, I'm going to follow the rules. It's very bureaucratic. And we need to be activists as educators, as policymakers. We have to rattle the system, we have to shake it so that it does the right thing for our kids.
In terms of the students who are coming from immigrant backgrounds, did you notice that they are facing even more challenges?
Oh, yes, definitely, because we had an influx of migrant students, and I had left the DOE and gone into higher education. And my student teachers were very overwhelmed because we had an influx of migrant students, but no policy to help them, no way to accommodate everybody. It was overwhelming the numbers, and schools were overcrowded, and there were students in the gymnasiums, and there was no plan put into place. Because, and I don't blame the principals because they were just given a call the morning of, by the way, you're going to have this many more students come in. The funding didn't come until later, and they had to make do. It was crisis proportions. And then when you have children who had to cross the border on foot, you have immense trauma. So the teachers haven't been given the tools around trauma informed care. So that's one thing I was working on my teachers with, and trying to turnkey it to as many people as possible so that the teachers were equipped to help the children. And now, because of the immigration policies, we have immense fear. The children don't know if their parents are going to be snatched or if they're going to be snatched. And New York is a sanctuary city, and we've never really had to worry too much because we've had the status of being a sanctuary city. But now, at any time, we can have feds march into the schools, march into the hospitals, march into the courts, and just take people. And we don't know where these people are going, why they're being taken. We were assured that it was just going to be cartels, the worst of the worst. And I think most people are okay with law enforcement. But when you see mothers waiting on their children after school and they're being snatched and the poor kids are in the street crying, that's unconscionable. That's not human. And we all have to um, stand up and be an ally and say, that's not okay. That's not what America is about. That's not what the Constitution is about. And we have to have love in our hearts for our neighbor.
What do you want immigrant families, first-time voters, and Queens residents to understand about the judicial election?
This year, Queens has a choice. Instead of pick two judges, because there's two seats, you have four judges to pick from. And I hope that people will do their due diligence and look up John Chiffon, me, Julie Milner, Edmund Wong, and Edward Irizarry. So John is the top of the ballot, then Julie, and then Edward Irizarry and Edmund Wong. So look us up and see who is the right person for you, whose values match your values, because you deserve to have judges that represent you. And of course, I would like to be that judge. I might not be. That's okay. Do your research and go and vote. So early voting is started already. You still have time to vote. Tuesday's the last day. Tuesday's the primary, the 23rd. So make sure to vote before the 23rd and pick the two judges that you feel are going to represent you the best.
Dr. Milner, Wise Immigrant Podcast is built around immigrant identity, and we like to share the wisdom of our guests. Would you mind to share with us something that it's really you learn something from your work in law, education, community involvement that can help people to be heard, to feel respected and equal before the law?
Yes, well, when I ran for judge last year, I had um, a politician, I won't say the name, but a politician told me, what are you doing in Elmhurst? Asians don't vote. Your voters are over here in 82nd in the historic district of Jackson Heights, which happens to be affluent and white, right? So they're telling me, why are you bothering going around to Asians to get their vote? And I found that very offensive for someone to tell me, why are you courting the Asian vote because I do a lot of outreach, a lot of events in the Asian community. Well, number one, my family's Asian, so I have a kinship there. But number two, everyone should vote. But the reasons certain groups don't vote is because they don't have anyone to vote for. No one is representing them. Nobody is reaching out to that community, so they don't feel a part of. So I have been very honored. I was endorsed by the Nepali Democrat Association, the New York Democrats, and the Nepalis are very organized. They have really come together to organize as a community to vet candidates and help them get on the to help them get on the ballot to be elected. They collect signatures. So the Nepalis were really organized. And this year, I've seen the Bangladesh community come together like never before. And they turned Kebab King in Jackson Heights into a war room to get all of these ballots together and get people out the door to get out the vote. And I was just so floored to see the power of people coming together. So no matter what group you're in, talk to your neighbors and make a make a plan to come together because people coming together is more powerful than one person trying to do something. When people see that you're together and you're doing something, it makes other people want to come in and be part of that effort.
Dr. Milner, thank you so much for joining us on Miss Immigrant Podcast. We really appreciate it. And this was really honored to hear your story. And we wish you good luck and that will happen what you wish to happen.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak with you today, and good luck, everybody.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.